Om Shri Sai Ram to everybody. My loving and humble pranams to the lotus feet of Swami for giving me the opportunity to be here with you. Thank all of you for taking the time off to come and listen to me. And I hope that I will be able to put forth some of the ideas that is behind this topic called holistic approach to modern medicine. You must excuse me for sitting down because I'm just recovering from an illness. Otherwise, I would have preferred to stand and talk. But I suppose that wouldn't interfere with me presenting you the facts. We are a spiritual organization. Everyone knows that. But we are living in the world. And Swami always played the importance of both. And unless we keep the instruments that we are, and we constantly hear the term, we are instruments. And it's basically our duty to keep this instrument in proper order. The unfortunate thing is that that's the only thing we are not taught. Even in our organization, and Swami has gone through this so many times, you'll find it all in his discourses. But practically speaking, the maintenance of this instrument, unfortunately, people believe, is the role of the doctor. That's what is the common belief. You get into trouble, you go to the doctor. And in many ways, it's true. And I graduated in the field of modern medicine because I thought I was being very modern. They said that's the best medicine on earth. And perhaps in the initial years of my training, I was a very arrogant doctor. I thought I knew everything. And I thought medicine and science is the answer. I was proved wrong in many ways. In acute medicine, we are very good. If you get a heart attack, I would recommend you rush to the super hospital. They will set it right. So acute medicine was very good. I enjoyed acute medicine. I felt I was saving lives. So my arrogance and ego, goes further up. I also presumed I knew the human body. These are all presumptions we get because as you get more and more qualified and trained, your ego builds up. And the patients come to you thinking that, you're sort of God. You're there to solve the problem. And then the statistics crept in. I started realizing, while I was quite good in treating acute problems, there was this thing called chronic disease coming up. When I graduated in the 1970s, 80s, this was not a major issue. Diabetes, hypertension was there. People were getting strokes and heart attacks. People were getting depressed and needing help. People were having a little bit of gas trouble issues. But then suddenly, after the 90s, the rate of these conditions called chronic diseases, and by the way, 70% of our problems are chronic. All the conditions I'm talking about fall into the chronic disease pattern. I wasn't doing much to help them. I suddenly realized Modern medicine was just a band-aid to the problem. If you get diabetes for life. I wasn't able to cure it. If you're hypertensive, that's it, till you die. I'm just taking two examples. But all the chronic diseases fall into this box. And you know how Swami is. He starts giving information if you start looking into it. So when I was looking into why is the chronic disease not being solved by modern medicine? You must have a blue-colored pill or a green-colored pill that you select and give it to the patient and say, boom, he's okay. But he wasn't, or she wasn't. The other problem I noticed was these conditions were rapidly increasing in the world. I remember my training days where we used to have 1 or 2 diabetics in the ward. Today I find that in the GH, if there are 15 patients admitted, 10 of them are diabetic. And we say, okay, it's all right, diabetes is increasing. We find patients who are very young becoming diabetic. I found that heart attacks, the youngest person who's got one is 16 years old. So what's happening? Something is going wrong with the maintenance. When I came into the subject, I was quite isolated because basically the rest of my colleagues were practicing modern medicine. And it took a long time for the science to catch up. Science started realizing the human body is so perfectly made. It's got a mechanism inbuilt. And doctors didn't realize that. Every cell in the human body has got an innate intelligence. We didn't realize each cell has got the intelligence. We thought all the cells are there doing its job. But are they intelligent? Where did this intelligence come from? We couldn't measure it, but things were happening in an intelligent way, provided you did the maintenance. So, modern medicine has failed, and an holistic approach is required. And today's talk, I'll try to tell you the why. Why do we need a holistic approach? And I'll tell you in short the how. One of the problems with science is that it's very shy of using the word divine. They'll say nature, they will say, they'll say different words. They'll not say divine. We being Swami devotees, we are not shy of using the word divine. So where does this divine bit come into the picture? And Swami always used to say in the ancient days, the gurus who were Ayurvedic physicians, they were like gods. And people, run after them. And the modern doctors are like dogs, where the doctors are running after patients. Of course, he said it as a joke. He always appreciated his doctor's team. But the limitations of medicine has today been exposed. And recently, and that is the reason I came for the talk, recently the science has caught up. The NHS in Britain, the National Health Service, is totally free, the UK. It's going bankrupt. Because the disease management by giving medicines is not working. So what did they do? They searched for alternatives, and they found it's lifestyle, diet, nutrition. And they didn't stop there. They said it is a state of your mind and your spiritual background that actually sustains health. So suddenly they realized waiting for patients to come in and you prescribing drugs is not the solution. So the question of why? Where does this holistic medicine begin? And what science discovered is it begins when you are conceived in the womb of your mother. The little cell called a zygote, which develops into all of us, is just a single cell. It begins then. We never realize that. Because that cell depends on the food the mother is eating, the water the mother is drinking, and the environment the mother is living in. We never realize that because science didn't go into that depth. And then it becomes a little baby. The baby starts sensing the outside world through the womb. We know the famous Mahabharata story where Parikshit actually listened to half the way, Abhimanyu listened to half the way of getting into the Chakravyuh and didn't listen to the full thing. So we know that. Our mythology and our mystical origin, I got stories which now science is catching up. So, do we actually do anything holistic to the pregnant mother today? Nope, we don't. But our Shastras are very clear on that. So when a pregnant mother comes to a doctor today, does the doctor say, how did you conceive? Where did you conceive? What was the environment? Were you in a happy family? What was the food you were eating? What was the sound blaring out of the television or radio? We don't ask that, do we? We don't. Do we say, were you listening to mantras, slokas? We don't. The problem is, there is no way to measure this. So we take it for granted that, you were born all right. The next thing is, we have got germs in our system. We call them microbes. In the traditional understanding, germs are bad. They are nasty. They are supposed to be killed off. That's what doctors are taught. That's what most of the ordinary patients think germs are bad. But these microbes are part of us. This is new science, the science of the microbe. The germs living in us are extremely important to us, extremely important, especially the ones which are living in our gut, in our stomach and intestine, and the colon. These gut microbes are part of us. If you remove them or kill them off, remove them completely, you will die in 48 hours. So what happens when a doctor gives you an antibiotic? It kills everything. See the divinity working here. Where do you get these microbes from first when you are born? You get it from the mother. If you are born the natural way, as you pass through the mother and come out, you pick microbes from the mother. And these microbes are very essential. How did science catch up? They found if children are born by cesarean section, they don't get the microbes. They get the microbes from the doctor who's done the surgery. They get the microbes from the nurse who picked the child, not from the mother. Does it matter? Well, science has caught up again. They found that these microbes in the cesarean child does not protect it from infections, from allergies, and related medical conditions. So what they're trying to do now is they're trying to take a swab from the mother and put it on the cesarean child to transfer the what is called beneficial germs. See the beauty of the divine. And then after the child is born, again the next holistic bit comes. Breastfeeding. The child is new to the environment. The child has nothing to protect it. So nature, divinity devised a method where the mother's first milk, called colostrum, goes in, kicks in. The first immune boost to the little baby who knows nothing about the outside world is from the mother. So breastfeeding is essentially very important. Now the pediatric departments all over the world know this and insist that at least 6 months you must breastfeed the child. And then what happens? The first 5 years of a child's life is where the child learns to live in the world. What does it mean? It means there are things outside that are dangerous to it. There are things outside that can kill it. So nature and divinity has devised a system where the child has got an immune system that has to learn. This immune system is like a set of soldiers in our body. They remain the rest of our life. And in the child, it's just learning. Oh, this is a bad guy, come inside. This is a bad germ. How does the child learn? By running around barefoot, by playing in the mud, by exposing itself to nature. But what do we do today? We are suddenly very hygienic. We want to keep the child protected from any germ. If you look at all the adverts, your kitchen table is like a hospital operation theater. You're wiping it all the time. We are washing all our things in detergents. Does it do any harm? Well, that's where science again has caught up. They are now saying, take your child to the park. Make the child run around in the mud. Let the child, play with mud. A village kid will not be surprised at these things, but, a city kid certainly is. So we are actually interfering with what is the innate mechanism in a divine instrument that God has created. So what has changed beyond that? What has changed in a way of living that is causing problems to the divine instrument? Which is why Swami was so traditional. You see, when I used to read up on what did Swami say, that was my hobby. When something new used to come up, I used to say, oh, what did Swami say about this? I still do it. And invariably, he was absolutely traditional. He sort of accepted the modern progress in life, saying that that's inevitable. But he stuck to his tradition. And he said, if you maintain this divine instrument in the proper way, it will take care of itself. It's our sort of progress into modernity that's causing the problems. So what has changed? Or what made us change in different ways? One is the anna bit, the food bit. And for this, I'll have to really blame the Americans. You see, we were very dependent on American science a lot. Most of our textbooks are written there. Most of our modern evidence-based medicine, if an American doctor says it, we say, oh, right, that's true. They created the first biggest blunder. You see, in the 1970s, when people started getting heart attacks, they wanted to know why. So there was this doctor called Ansel Keys. And he went around trying to find a reason. Somehow, somewhere he got the idea that it is fat, it is cholesterol, without any scientific proof. So he said, where does cholesterol and fat come from? So he said, it comes from, butter and milk products and coconut oil and meat and all the fat in the meat. So he went and did a set of studies, population studies, which are not really scientific. And he said all the meat-eating countries, and the fellows are eating a lot of fat, a lot of lard in those days. It's got high cholesterol. That is blocking the artery and killing people. Now, during Krishna's time, Krishna was addicted to butter. All Indians used to eat ghee. Traditionally, all the Brahmins, they cook in ghee. I had a Brahmin patient who was 85 years old, who was no illness at all, came for just a general checkup. Her daughter, who was 60, had about 4 or 5 diseases, and she was perfectly fit. And she said, when I was a small child, 5 or 6 years old, my grandmother, before we went to school, used to give us ghee. She used to say, put your hands out. And all of us have to take 1 tablespoon of ghee early in the morning and then go. Today, if you ask a cardiologist, can I take ghee? He'll say no. So ghee became bad. Why? It became bad because of this doctor called Ansel Keys. He convinced everybody cholesterol is bad. And what has cholesterol is bad. So everything connected to cholesterol is bad. So out went everything. People in Kerala have been using coconut oil for centuries. Suddenly coconut oil became bad. So when you approach this problem in a holistic way, what has changed? What has changed was some set of silly people in America created a food pyramid and said this is how everybody should eat. Some areas they were right. But since they removed fat from the diet, all the food producers said, see, fat is what makes things tasty. So if you remove taste from the diet, and if oil and fat is bad, what do? We add sugar. Obviously, they said, you add sugar. Sugar is fine. So you find all the processed food today is extremely high in sugar. So we got low fat and high carb diet everywhere. And then, because the population increased so much, food processing became very normal because you have to get food to millions of people. So the kind of ancient way of eating, where you eat local food and you don't process it too much, that disappeared. And today, even in the ashram, having a cup of tea and coffee and a couple of biscuits is normal. And then they did the biggest blunder in medicine, or nutritional medicine as we can call it now. They said if you remove the cholesterol containing oils, what oil can human beings eat? So there was not much research then, but Procter and Gamble, a very rich company, it was trying to extract oil from seeds. And the seed it actually initially used was cotton seed. Now, have you heard of human beings eating cotton seed oil? No. But they invented it. They actually invented it to put it into machinery. And they had so much of this oil left around, they said, let's give it to human beings. So soya bean oil and cotton seed oil started getting manufactured. Now it is extremely difficult to remove this oil from the seed. You can't remove it like from the copra or the coconut or. So they created, a German scientist, he created a chemical process. So the refined oil you are eating today goes through 7 sets of chemical processes. Not much divine energy left in it after that. But the oil looks very beautiful, no smell, very clear, and you can heat it to a high temperature. The problem was, see, nature is very clever. All of us need cholesterol to live. 70% of our brain is made out of cholesterol. Our nervous system cannot be built without the cholesterol, the myelin sheath. All our hormones which are very important for us to survive, the origin molecule is cholesterol. And surprise, surprise, the liver actually manufactures cholesterol. So if you don't take any cholesterol in your diet, the liver will make it. So the scientists were very confused. Here you're following a theory saying that cholesterol is bad, and cardiologists are giving medicines to lower the cholesterol, while the liver is making it. Why should God give you a substance that will give you a heart attack? Nobody thought about it. Because by then the business came in, the pharmaceutical companies came in. They actually bribed, this is a strong word to use, they bribed the doctors. And now the story is coming out. The controversies are coming out. They actually bribed the Cardiology Society of America, which told everybody cholesterol is bad, without any proof. Absolutely no proof. Imagine a medical science built on a myth. But that's what Kali Yuga is all about. You see, when you repeat a lie 100 times, it becomes the truth. So why did the doctors go for it? It's because we are trained to listen to our professor. The training is so strict that we got guidelines which says that if you don't do this, we can remove your license. So we have to practice evidence-based medicine that is accepted by the majority. The majority may be wrong, but there you go. So if a democratic vote is taken, if 90 of the doctors say cholesterol is bad, we have to join them. Otherwise you'll be chucked out of your profession. So that's how strictly controlled the profession is. This is one aspect of that. The second aspect is sugar started increasing in diet. Now is sugar bad? As the latest scientific reports came to me, it said sugar is the worst thing man has invented. The human body does not need to take direct sugar. It's not meant. It's supposed to take, sugar in its natural state. Sugar is a refined product, by the way. It also goes through processes. So who do I go to? Who is the final authority on this? Swami. And then can you imagine the small bit of what Swami said came to me entirely by coincidence. My wife was going through, what Swami said on many things on food. And she got this particular snippet and pointed it out to me and said, you need to read this. 1983 discourse. Swami has linked sugar to cancer. And I said, 1983, Swami said, none of these doctors know what causes cancer. It's sugar. Amazing. What's going on here? Swami is saying something. I know when Swami says something, just leaves it hanging in the air. He doesn't give any further proof of why he said it. He just said it. But now the proof has come. Sugar is now considered to be a toxin. You are not supposed to eat manufactured, refined white sugar at all. Swami went on further in that particular discourse, talking about how business involvement has changed what we are exposed to. So what are we exposed to? Well, we are exposed to fertilizers. We are exposed to pesticides. By the way, India is the worst record on that, including China. Do you think our human body is meant to be exposed to fertilizers and pesticides? Absolutely not. But then why don't we all die? The problem is, the dose of the pesticide required to kill you is very high. We are all exposed to very, very small doses. What is it doing to us? It is messing with our system. So where does the holistic part come? The holistic part comes with the question, where is your food growing? Who is actually harvesting your food? What is the fertilizer and pesticide put on it? And now the science says a large percentage of our adulterated food is actually toxic to the body. Now science has to have proof. Where do you get proof from? Can you do experiments? Take 100 people and give them good food. Take another 100 people and give them the modern food, the adulterated food. And we need to observe them for at least 40 years. Possible? No. So the scientists did another thing. They went to find out who are the longest living people on earth and where are they living. Makes sense. They are called blue zones. You can go on the internet and find out blue zones. The blue zones are areas where the average age is 100. And they said, why? Why is it that these people are living up to be 100 in these blue zones? What's so special about them? And they found that it's all because they are leading a basically traditional life. Eventually the blue zones will disappear because Coca-Cola and McDonald's and everything is coming everywhere. So, but what I mean is they still exist. So they had a good place. And I'm in the habit of looking for stories. And this story actually came in the Hindu newspaper, which is quite surprising that people don't really notice these stories. This happened about 3 years ago. And the story came just about a year ago. There is this Adivasi Odisha group who live in the forest in Odisha. I don't know how many of you know about Odisha. They have this forest there. And these Adivasis live there. The problem was they were not coming in for voting and they were not part of the census. They were just deep in the forest, leading their whatever forest life these people lead. So the Indian government thought they were being very smart, saying that these guys have to progress. Science has come in and telecommunication, television, phones, everything has come in, and these guys are deep in the forest, leading a very primitive life. So they have to be rehabilitated. See the way society works. We think because some people are living in the forest, they are useless. They are not really up to the mark. They don't deserve to really live that foresty life. They should be like us. So they took them out of the forest, told them to start farming and gave them a little land and settled them outside the forest and said, we'll modernize you, we'll put you to school, educate you. The problem was these guys didn't know how to farm, obviously. It failed. So what is the next solution? We'll supply the food. And we'll train you in some other kind of work. So what is the food you think the government can supply cheaply? One is sugar. Two is refined rice. Three is the cheapest oil refined, that is palm oil. And of course, they were exposed to cigarettes and alcohol and other things because they came out of the forest. Within 5 years, the elders, they had their own panchayat, and the elders found everybody is falling sick. And they were getting diseases which they never had before. And the children were all, especially the children, falling sick. So the government came in and said, don't worry, we'll open up a clinic for you. And that's the usual solution, When people fall sick, you need a doctor. Obvious answer. That went on for another 2-3 years, and the elders realized the clinic is not helping these people at all. So what do you think the elders did? One night, they packed everything, and they disappeared into the forest. They said, we don't want this modern life. We don't want your smartphones. We don't want your televisions. We don't want your food either. Since they disappeared very deep into the forest, the government lost touch with them. After another 5 years, somebody said, oh my God, these guys may be dead, poor things. We tried to help them. They ran away. Maybe somebody should, take a delegation and see how they are. So after great trouble, they landed and found the chieftain. And they got in touch and said, we need to give you all a checkup. They said, no need. Everybody's fine. I said, what? You're in the forest plucking the roots and, plucking the fruit from the tree and eating rubbish and you're fine. They said, yeah, we're absolutely fine. What does the story show? Obviously, the human body is not really meant for this supposedly modern life. So what do we do? When the food comes onto the table, check, did God make it or man made it? If it is man-made, check how modified it is. If it is slightly modified, acceptable. If it comes in a plastic packet, processed, which says it can be used within 6 months to 1 year, and it's made in a factory in Madurai or Chennai or wherever, that's not food. That's the first question. Second thing is, check what is the additives in it. So if you look at the food label, look at the back. And if you see a lot of E numbers and coloring agents used and stabilizers used, emulsifiers used, these are all things to preserve food for 1 year to 6 months or whatever it's called. Who invented this preservative? A scientist in a laboratory. He said, I'll take a bit of toast or I'll take a biscuit. I have to keep this biscuit somewhat tasting like a biscuit after 6 months. So they invented a series of chemicals that's in your biscuit, in your glucose biscuit. Of course, they won't tell you that. And of course, it has sugar. You eat it. Tasty, of course. But what does the human body do? The human body is a divine body. It says, what is this funny chemical coming into my system? I never seen it before. So it tries to get rid of the system. That's the only thing you can do. And the only two organs that can get rid of things God has given us is the liver and the kidneys. Now, they're not meant to get rid of chemicals the scientists made in a lab. They are meant to get rid of natural toxins. Natural toxins are present in everything. Because even a plant doesn't want to get eaten. Do plants want to get eaten? No, they produce toxins. By eaten means by insects and whatever. But human beings too. These toxins don't harm us, and our liver can handle it. But even then, you have to cook it in a particular way. There are certain items you have to cook in a special way, and we know traditionally how to. So they become non-toxic. Our grandmothers know that. So that's how human beings survived. But these preservatives are chemicals. Take them. You put things in a plastic bag, the plastic leaches into the food. Proved. You drink water in a plastic bottle, and if it is exposed to heat, the plastic leaches into the water. Nobody paid much attention to this because it's quite normal for us to do it. But whether it causes problems, whether it causes chronic disease, whether it causes cancer, we never knew. And now, the proof is that there is slow accumulation. It takes years before the results come. So you say, oh, well, this person is 45, or this person is 50, and this person is old. So, no. Swami keeps saying that the age of Krishna and Arjuna during the war was 80, 85. Age of Bhishma was 150. The Bible says Moses was 300. And we say, Swami says there are rishis in the Himalayas meditating for 1,000 years. We say, Swami, that's a joke maybe. But the fact is, the divine instrument Swami has made, the instrument itself is immortal. Of course, we can't reach it. But it is. The system is immortal. It is the raw materials that is the problem. Are we thinking, what is the raw material? And this science is just come. It's not come in the textbook yet. But I'm telling it to you. Because I think as an organization, we should know this is part of Swami science too. I got a lot of interesting stories which can, substantiate this science, but lack of time. But if I do get time at the end of the thing, I'll tell you. So, food is important. But then, the second bit they came into in the science is, how many times should you eat? The general story is that, you eat because it is breakfast time, because it is lunch time, because it is tea time. But how many times should you actually eat? So there is a scientific paper on what is known as the circadian rhythm. All our cells need to rest. We can't keep working all the time. And there's a 12-hour gap. The best format to eat is twice a day. That's the ideal. And in the ancient days, people used to do that. There used to be a 10 o'clock meal, and then there's a 7 o'clock meal. They call it intermittent fasting. You see, that gap allows the digestive system a chance to digest what you've eaten. And you eat only when you're hungry. That is a natural divine signal. The Agni in your stomach needs the food. That has changed. We eat out of habit. We eat out of boredom. We eat because it is the time to eat. And this is now taught to all of us, and we think that's the way human beings lived or should live. But science says no. The gurus actually manage by once a day. And some gurus, of course, manage by not eating most of the days. The question is, you say, oh, that's okay for a guru. It's okay for a chap in the Himalayas, who's sitting there meditating. Absolutely wrong. That's the way our system is built. So what these people found, that when they took these sick people and just changed the way they ate, a large percentage of their problems disappeared. Sugar levels started dropping. All their health parameters started changing. So now we are waiting for the science to come into a textbook, and then you'll need a holistic doctor to tell you the best format of eating is twice a day. Fasting itself is so beneficial that all holistic physicians will talk about fasting. Now, there is no rule for this. Each individual patient needs different requirements of fasting, and there is no scientific program. You have to find out, okay, when I fast like this, I feel better. What they found out is there are certain cells in our body called stem cells. These stem cells can become any cell it wants to be. God has put those cells there. And how do you make these stem cells come into the picture? So usually if you've got a problem, a repair has to be done, some damage has to be repaired, the stem cells go in. And today the stem cell research is the research of the future. They're saying that we can build a whole new heart, a whole new kidney from your own cell. We'll pick up your stem cells, you build a new heart for you and keep it in a bank. And when your heart goes off, you can go to the bank and pick it and fix it up. Well, most probably science may go that way, but it's going to be very expensive. But God has given us those stem cells. Now, how to say, okay, you stem cells, start doing your job? Is there a way? Is there a drug? Is there an injection? No, fasting. If you fast, your stem cells get a signal saying, oh my God, I should wake up and start doing some repairing. But we fast only on holy days. So we fast for Swami. No, you should start fasting for your stem cell, because that is what Swami made this for. He has made all these things for our worldly life. We mix it up with moksha and all that. That's far away. Let us get the worldly instrument sorted first. So fasting is the thing. Then the other bit of the scientific thing you should be doing, they call it movement and exercise. You see, why were the ancient people always healthy? Because life was built on moving. Today, we are sitting all the time. So, solution to that is, they say every hour or so, 2 hours, you move. Get up and move. Get up and stretch. It doesn't matter. In the olden days, it's not required because you have to move. You see? Today, they say sitting down is as dangerous as smoking 20 cigarettes a day. So if you say that, I'm not smoking at all, but I'm sitting down for 8 hours a day, for one reason or the other, that means you have smoked 20 cigarettes. Not a joke, a scientific statement. And then exercise. There are two types of exercise. One is the strength exercises, where you strengthen the muscle. The other is the aerobic cardiac exercises, which you give exercise to the heart. And they found in all these blue zones, these people were moving and they were doing jobs which needed exercise. Today our maximum exercise is the remote control, maybe in front of a computer, you're sitting in the office and doing some work. So we're giving a lot of exercise to our fingers. And then we say, I took, 9 circles of Ganesha, early morning exercise. And we are very happy with that. And then we go and have 2 vadas and 1 idli and, 1 cup of coffee with 3 spoons of sugar. No. Your exercise is meant to keep your body system in balance so that the body remains in a balance where it's not needing sugar. And that is how our body was built. Our body was not built to keep eating and needing sugar all the time. And what they found is that if you start depending on regular sugar intake, sugar is more addictive than cocaine, because unfortunately there is a small part in our brain which likes sugar. The reason for that is for people to select the sweetest fruits. But that part is now misbehaving. What we have done is we have constantly supplied it excess sugar, and now it demands. And you'll find that you can never get addicted to ghee or butter, but you can get addicted to laddus. So why is that? And that's because of the problem of the sugar addiction. And as you know, sugar is toxic. So your moving and exercising is to keep the body machinery that is doing the burning, is producing energy. It's something called mitochondria. It's a little factory that makes energy. You have to keep that on. While you're sitting down, your brain is saying, okay, leg go to sleep, hands go to sleep, everything go to sleep, generally speaking. And the mouth goes on if you're talking to somebody, and your fingers go on if you're in front of a computer. So the mitochondria is pretty confused. What is this human being doing? The signals have to go. And then what you need is sleep. And different people need different amounts of sleep. But sleep is extremely important because all your repair mechanisms happen during sleep. The body is so made that if you don't go into that Turiya level of deep sleep, the repair mechanisms are confused. So if you get a phone call in the middle of the night, or you're talking to somebody at 11 o'clock, the body wakes up. The biggest problem with the human design is, not the problem as such, problem created now. The human design was designed in a very simple way. It has got a hormone called adrenaline and cortisol. These are stress hormones. They are the hormones which sort of come in an emergency. They are hormones which should be there for minimal amount, but should jump in when required and then go back to sleep. That's how it should be. In other words, you mustn't continuously send signals to your body to produce the stress hormones. And the body has only one way to deal with any form of irritation. It can be a tiger jumping at you. It can be somebody being irritable to you. It can be you waiting for a phone call that's not coming, or a train or a plane or a bus. It can be that your cooking went all wrong. Any irritation, any action that you're doing in an irritated way, anything you're not satisfied about, anything that makes you wake up in the morning and say, I'm in a bad mood. What does the body do? It does only one thing. It produces a stress hormone. It's not needed, really. But today, from morning till evening, we are under continuous stress. Whether you go to the supermarket and stand in the line, whether a Sevadal pushes you out of Kulwant Hall, whatever it is, whether you don't get the best seat in Kulwant Hall. When Swami's days it was worse, but today I think it's a bit more flexible. Can't see Swami directly. Stress. So, the human body not designed for stress hormones, we are under constant stress. So what does science say? You must learn to relax and meditation. And this is the holistic doctor saying it, by the way. Nothing to do with spirituality. Now, they don't use the word meditation. They use the word mindfulness. They take Chinese Tai Chi and all that. We got our yoga anyway. We got our meditation. Important. But then people think by closing our eyes and sitting in Kulwant Hall, we are done our meditation. Tick. No. If you have heard Dr. Sola's discourses, he talks about thumb meditation. You can do anywhere. You must go into a meditative phase intermittently whenever you can. Do it. Make it a practice. Oh, you got a 5-minute break, you got nothing to do. Meditate. Find the kind of meditation you like to do. Remember, meditation is not a scientific written down box. And that is the beauty of Swami's teachings. He says you don't need any implement to meditate. You must just learn to switch off the thoughts. You can't simply order the thoughts to switch off. You must have a technique to distract the thoughts. So the scientists have found out you must relax, you must meditate. And then something very surprising for holistic doctors, satsang and prayer. They found in the blue zones, they had a community. They had group activities. Some of them religious, some of them not. But traditionally the villages had, and most of our ancient villages, all the activities were centered on God activities. The puja was God, the drama was God, the celebration was God. It wasn't this modern TV soap operas. So it was there in the culture, but that's gone. The TV soap operas only create more stress hormones and more cortisol. Why did he do that? Why did she say that? We do this in the things we watch. So we are reacting. But where does prayer come in? See, holistic physicians look into all areas of health. And they found that church-going people who are regularly church-going tend to have less visits to the hospital. This is very odd. Why should people going to church, sitting there and listening to the choir and praying to Jesus, come back and have less visits to the hospital? And this is something modern medicine has totally missed. We never ask a patient, do you pray? Do you have a guru? Because then it may be insulting, because some people may say, I don't believe in God, sort of thing. But it is your spiritual self that modern medicine is now recognized. It's not enough taking the pill, taking the tablet, sleeping well, exercising well, eating the right food. If you don't have the satsang and the prayer, it doesn't work. It can be individual prayer too. It can be a group. Doesn't matter. See, I'm not talking about the technique a person is using. I'm saying, do you use it? And if you're using it, and if you're following these principles, you'll not be sitting in front of a doctor. It is as obvious as that. There's a gentleman in the ashram who's 92 years old. He comes sometimes to the GH to help around. I didn't know who he was. And my translator said, do you know who this gentleman is? Do you know how old he is? He's 92. I've seen him hopping about, helping people. So I said, does he come to the hospital for any medical issues? He said, no. He has never visited a doctor. He doesn't have a medical issue. He's coming to do seva. 92. Possible? Yes. I don't know, I should interview him and asking him what holistic principles he's following. But the fact is, by some coincidence, he's doing everything right. So disease is not something that comes through the door to catch you. A lot of people say, oh doctor, it's my karma. I say, no, it's your glucose biscuit you're eating. They don't believe that. You see, to end this, to end on a positive note, we have got our genes. Till now the research said that our genes are fixed. You can't change your genes. Now the latest research shows that's absolutely wrong. There is a subject coming up called epigenetics. And epigenetics means our genes are constantly, going good or bad. How do you make the genes remain good? How do you make the good ones switch on and the bad ones shut up? Well, obviously we inherit good and bad. Our karma may have a lot of bad genes, but no, we don't want the bad karma. How do you do? Pray to Swami, true. Besides that, worldly level, what do you do? And they found all these techniques, which I just mentioned, if you put into practice, it changes your genes. In fact, you have heard of Dr. Deepak Chopra? Yeah, very famous. Dr. Deepak Chopra is now doing a research on the effect of meditation on one area of the gene called a telomere. The telomere is like a cap, and the gene is like a shoestring. And the shoestring, should not get frayed, and it's got a cap on each end. So this cap is what all genes have. Now this telomere has got a length. The longer the telomere, the longer you live. Scientific fact. If you start getting very short telomeres, it means you're going to die very quickly. So how to increase the telomere length? Somehow Deepak Chopra, now he's a lot into spirituality. Someone told him that, these yogis, they meditate all a lot, why not try meditation? So he went to Harvard University. Harvard University is not something to get laughed at. They do things very pakka. And said, get about 50 people meditating. So they said, do they have to be religious? Said, no, just meditate. And he gave them a technique. He will measure the telomeres. After 3 weeks, just 3 weeks, all their telomeres in their genes started growing. A physical change by an act of meditation. So, modern science, modern medicine is very good at drugging people. And since I come from that training, they are very useful in saving lives in an emergency. But to maintain your divine body, you have to follow these principles, which is now being introduced. Surprise, surprise. It is being introduced by a group of doctors practicing in America called functional doctors. They're called functional medicine doctors. They're finding it tough to introduce it because, difficult to change society suddenly. But the NHS in Britain, in UK, they have now made it a policy to introduce nutrition and lifestyle medicine as part of their GP training. They said, this is the way to go. We, being a spiritual organization, a large percentage of our focus is on the spiritual aspects of life, which is essential to understand. But we already know there is divine. We already know there is God. There's no doubt about, prove Swami is God. We are past that stage. But are we following His instructions? Are we applying it to maintaining? Now what will happen tragically is, some American fellow will publish a book on this. It'll get printed there. It'll come to India. And then we will read it and say, yeah, satsang, meditation, prayer, very good. That's not the way it should be. We should be teaching them because we knew this. We should be the ones printing the books, telling and practicing it so that they will wake up and say, in fact, they are coming here. They are introducing yoga and Ayurveda and all sorts of herbal medicine, anything that works. Why should we learn from them? Finally, I suppose we'll go and we'll learn from them. There is actually a God, you see. In a laboratory, they actually photographed, this particle called God particle. This is the way we are moving. That the homework is done for us. It's all there. The problem is, it's not propagating because we are jumping from leaving our physical life into the spiritual bit. We have to sort the physical first. The Annamaya Kosa and the Manomaya Kosa have to get sorted. Then we think of the rest. And where does it begin? In childhood. So learning a lot of shastras and this thing is good. But the practical aspect of how to live, Swami has already told us, his discourses are there. We have to pick it up and apply it. And that is the approach which, I think is the way we should go. And I thought of introducing it in the General Hospital introducing the lifestyle clinic. The problem is, of course, it needs a team. It needs a support. It's not a single person derived progress. But it's just the information which I'm giving you. And anyone interested in where is the scientific fact, they can come to me and I'll give you because we are scientists. And we can't just listen to, oh no, well, maybe it's just anecdotal. Maybe it's just a theory. No, I don't believe in anecdotes. I go for scientific facts. Just a story to illustrate, 2 minutes, I'll end it. A story to illustrate how certain incidents happen while you're a doctor. You cannot explain and everything falls into place. You see, when I was practicing in Dubai, that's when the subject came to me. I was known to practice allergy and diet and nutritional medicine and all that. So I got a patient who brought her sister and said that, can I bring my sister? I want to show a son to you. And they're from the States. They're from New York. So I said, what's the need of showing me? I mean, you're in New York and you have the best medical facilities. So he said, no, it's nothing to do with her, with this problem. It's something to do with his milk issue. So anyway, they came to my consultation, and the problem was this child was diagnosed to have milk allergy. In New York, established, no milk, can't drink milk. The child used to go into anaphylactic shock. They were traveling to India, and they were planning to spend about 10 days in Kerala. And they were supposed to go to a famous temple they called Guruvayur. And they said, we have got all the milk substitutes for 10 days. They got special permission from the customs to bring it in. And this is the only thing the child can take. The child was 4 years old. Suppose it gets over. Can we get this in India? So I said, no, not possible. Suppose we wanted to extend our stay for another few days. What should we give? I said, can't give milk, you see. So they were very disappointed. And they went off. And then I didn't meet them. I lost touch with them. After a year or so, while I was in India, I met this lady. And said that, she said, oh, doctor, I have to tell you something. I said, what's that? It's about that child you saw. I said, what happened? He said, he came to India and drank milk. So I said, it's not possible. I mean, how did that happen? He said, no, but there's another part of the story. He's still milk allergic. So I didn't understand what was happening. So it seems they were with their grandparents and they had to go to Guruvayur for 2 days. So they taught the grandmother how to mix this milk and give the baby and said, 2 days we are not here. When they came back, they found the tins were not opened at all. So they asked the grandmother that, what did you do? You didn't feed the child? You didn't give the milk? He said, yeah, we gave our Lakshmi, our cow, we gave her milk. And nothing happened, nothing happened. So they thought because they went to Guruvayur, God blessed them or something. And they stayed for another month giving this milk. And they returned to the States. You know what the first thing they did when you go back to New York? You go to the supermarket, you buy the milk. So now the child is okay, isn't it? So they went to the supermarket, got the plastic bottle milk, brought it here. The child got an anaphylactic shock, was in an intensive care unit for 2 weeks, recovered. So I rang my professor up and I asked him that, what is this all about? I mean, how can this happen? So the first thing he told me from there was, what kind of cow? You see, if you drink milk from your family cow and you are feeding it natural things, that is milk. If you take 500 cows' milk, mix it, pasteurize it, put it into a plastic bottle, keep it in the supermarket shelf, it's not milk anymore. Thank you. Saira. Is it?